New Year's Eve in New York City and around the world. Large crowds gather for celebrations under the watchful eyes of drones, bomb squads, and counterterrorism teams. A possible avalanche of Epstein files. Could there be as many as 5 million more documents that haven't been released to the public?
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jerika Duncan. Thank you for joining us as we get set to ring in 2026. The new year has already arrived in parts of the Eastern Hemisphere. In Australia, a spectacular fireworks show lit up Sydney Harbor. In Taiwan, fireworks blasted from the famous 101-story skyscraper in the capital, Taipei. Here in New York City and other major cities across the United States, celebrations are being held under extremely tight security. Perhaps the most famous New Year's Eve spot is in the heart of Manhattan. That's where our Elaine Quijano is tonight, amongst the crowd.
Good evening, Jerika. More than 1 million people are expected to ring in the new year in Times Square. City leaders say there are no specific or credible threats, but they're taking no chances. As the clock ticks closer to midnight in Times Square, the NYPD will be watching.
We will have plainclothes K-9 teams, officers on horsebacks, on our trains, subway stations, and in helicopters and on boats.
Intelligence teams will also be watching online. Colin Clark heads up a nonprofit group which monitors global terrorist activity. How has social media changed the threat environment?
Sometimes you have terrorists leaving what we would call digital breadcrumbs online, where they're talking about things or threatening things or almost foreshadowing them. The so-called chatter has just been really high.
In New Orleans, as partygoers prepared to let the good times roll, National Guard Humvees rolled down Bourbon Street in a show of force. About 350 National Guard troops are helping local law enforcement. 1 year after an ISIS-inspired attack, when a driver rammed a rented pickup truck through a crowd of New Year's Eve revelers, killing 14 people. What is the threat environment like right now in the U.S.?
We're in a heightened threat environment. The threat is far more diverse and complex than it's been in the past. It's not just jihadist groups, but it's also groups across the ideological spectrum, from far left to far right, and everything in between.
Earlier this month, the FBI announced it foiled a detailed, coordinated plot to bomb 2 U.S. companies in Southern California on New Year's Eve. Federal officials said 4 members of a far-left anti-government group were arrested. Now, in addition to the security checkpoints at the perimeter, the NYPD will also have units walking around inside the pens conducting secondary screening. And Jerika, that is a change from previous years.
Elaine Quijano in Manhattan, thank you. President Trump said today that he's dropping his push to deploy National Guard troops in Chicago, Los Angeles, and Portland, Oregon. The president made the announcement on social media saying, quote, "We will come back if crime begins to soar again." The deployments have faced multiple legal roadblocks. The troops had already left L.A. and were sent to Chicago and Portland, but were never on the streets. The U.S. military yesterday carried out strikes against 3 more suspected drug boats in the Pacific Ocean off Venezuela. Officials say as many as 8 suspected smugglers jumped from the boats, which were hit a second time and sank. The Coast Guard is searching for possible survivors. At least 3 people were killed. Well, turning to your New Year's weather in parts of the country, snow and rain are coming down harder and piling up faster than that confetti in Times Square. We get now more details from the holiday forecast from meteorologist Rob Marciano.
Snow is piling up across the Great Lakes. Over 2 feet already in parts of northern Michigan, and more is on the way. CBS's Ian Lee is in Syracuse, New York.
Syracuse saw the most snow in a single day since 1946, leading to snowbanks like this, and they're not done. That winter storm warning has now been extended through tomorrow, and the region could see a total of 4 feet of snow by week's end.
Snow squalls and strong winds are making travel dangerous in Ohio and Indiana, where police dashcam video shows a semi sliding off the highway, then launching over the barrier. Another round of winter weather will deliver low temperatures to New England, where winds toppled trees earlier this week. and snowflakes may fly in Times Square for tonight's ball drop. In the west, a series of atmospheric rivers is providing significant snowfall in the Sierra. A multi-day rain threat that could last into next week is returning to flood-soaked Southern California just in time for tomorrow's Rose Parade.
And it's only rained 10 times in the Rose Parade's history. Hopefully they get a bit of a dry patch tomorrow, but it looks relatively wet. Here in New York, it's certainly cold enough for snow. You may get it during the celebrations in Times Square. Temperatures hovering at or just below the freezing mark. Wind chills very uncomfortable, and maybe a snow shower or two as this comes through. Not as much as it did in 1948, though, that's for sure. The Great Lakes and folks farther inland will see maybe a little bit more in the way of snow as this little pulse comes through, but it'll feel like 21 in Chicago. It'll feel like 41 degrees when they drop the peach in Atlanta. Dry across the midsection, but unfortunately it's wet across parts of California. Pretty good pulse of rain coming in here with this atmospheric river. San Francisco all the way down to San Diego. There you saw it at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. It does look to be relatively wet, and another one coming through during the day on Saturday for a total of up to 6 inches of rainfall as we head through the weekend. So not the best way to start off the new year there in California. Better days ahead for you and hopefully for everybody else as we celebrate a healthy, happy, and safe new year. Jerika?
Absolutely. Happy New Year, Rob Marciano. There may be millions of documents still to be released from the case against convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. By law, those files were required to be made public nearly 2 weeks ago. CBS's Scott McFarland has the latest.
An attorney for some survivors of Jeffrey Epstein's sex crime says the delay in the release of the Epstein files is a slap in the face for these women. They've been seeking these records for years to determine if anyone else helped enable, fund, or cover up Epstein's crimes. As of tonight, the Department of Justice is nearly 2 weeks late in releasing the case files of federal investigations of Epstein and co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell. Federal law required the release by December 19th. 12 days later, the Department of Justice isn't saying when it'll finish the job. A New York Times report today said approximately 5 million pages must still be processed. CBS News could not independently confirm that number, but a legal team representing survivors says it estimates only 1% of the files have been posted so far. Deputy U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche issued a statement today saying they have all hands on deck, including redacting private victim information. In the meantime, Democratic senators are asking for an internal probe of the department to determine if the law is being broken.
Scott McFarland in Washington, D.C. tonight. Thank you. Well, several states tonight are set to change which items people can buy from the grocery store with their federal food benefits. Now, the restrictions, which begin tomorrow, target junk food. Meg Oliver reports on the impact.
Giving up junk food may sound like a New Year's resolution, but for some SNAP recipients, it will soon be the law. On New Year's Day, 5 states will prohibit items such as soft drinks or candy from being purchased through SNAP. By the fall of 2026, that will balloon to 18 states.
It's about nutrition, and there's no nutrition in these products. We shouldn't be paying for them with taxpayer money.
The move is part of the government's Make America Healthy Again initiative, designed to reduce obesity and chronic diseases like diabetes.
We all agree that we want people to have opportunities to have healthier foods.
Stephanie Silvera is a public health professor at Montclair State University.
This sounds like a good thing, but is there a risk to this as well?
Of course. We don't have a good definition of what do we actually mean by ultra-processed foods, right? Where are we drawing those lines?
Hawaii's limits apply to just soft drinks, Indiana to soda and candy, and South Carolina to candy, energy drinks, soft drinks, and sweetened beverages. One South Carolina shopper favors the ban.
I used to buy candy all the time, and then we'd run out of food sometimes.
But Silvera is concerned it could make the problem worse.
If what we're simply doing is cutting access to those foods without also providing better access or more affordable access to healthy foods, we're going to see a lot more people go hungry.
That's because healthier food tends to be more expensive. Silvera suggests adding a tax on less healthy food to bring the cost down on more nutritious choices.
All right, Meg Oliver, thank you. Good to see you. Still ahead on the CBS Evening News, more fallout from the Minnesota fraud scandal, including the families who rely on funding now frozen by the Trump administration. Tonight, a closer look at the real-life fallout for families in Minnesota after the Trump administration paused federal assistance to child care centers there. Parents now wondering if their kids' daycare is in jeopardy as the government investigates fraud claims. CBS's Jonah Kaplan has been following this developing story from Minneapolis.
Homeland Security investigations. With roughly $185 million in federal funding frozen, a question. What happens to the 19,000 children from low-income families which rely on those child care services?
Over 20,000 children in over 4,000 programs across our state will lose access to child care and early learning.
$4 or $5 million got sent to this daycare center.
Federal officials credited this viral video from YouTube influencer Nick Shirley, who claimed he found dozens of empty daycares and health clinics that were scamming taxpayers.
Tried to get in, rang the doorbell, nobody showed up.
We believe the state of Minnesota has allowed scammers and fake daycares to siphon millions of taxpayer dollars over the past decade.
CBS News visited and reviewed the daycares mentioned in the video. One had a playground, another shared security footage with us, showing kids getting picked up and dropped off on the same day Shirley arrived. Several daycares were previously cited for safety violations, but state regulators found no evidence of fraud. The influencer's video faced pushback today from other daycares, including this center, which said it was vandalized earlier this week.
We've been receiving hateful messages through our voice notes threatening us.
Beyond daycares, there's no question Minnesota is reeling from a fraud crisis in other social services programs. Federal prosecutors have charged more than 90 people since 2022. More than 60 have been convicted. Investigators say the fraudsters exploited COVID-era rules to steal hundreds of millions of dollars intended to feed low-income kids, house the disabled, and provide services to autistic children. Court files obtained exclusively by CBS News showed where some of that money went instead. Luxury villas, fancy cars, and overseas wire transfers.
There are 14 social programs in Minnesota funded by Medicaid that are currently under investigation both by the state and federal government. Child care is not one of them. But Eureka, also tonight we're learning from Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. He's threatening to sue the Trump administration if the child care funding does indeed stop.
Jonah Kaplan staying on top of it for us. Thank you. Up next, now hiring. An economic oasis emerges in the Arizona desert. Arizona is fast becoming a major hub for computer chip production thanks to what's being called the largest foreign direct investment in U.S. history. Tonight, Chris Van Cleve takes us to a sprawling campus in Phoenix that is providing thousands of jobs while reducing America's reliance on products from overseas.
Jennifer De La Cruz is suiting up and walking into a career of the future. A year ago, the Phoenix mother of two was working 2 jobs just to get by.
This was never on my radar.
Growing like an economic oasis in the Arizona desert, this TSMC manufacturing campus is helping turn the Valley of the Sun into the Valley of the Semiconductor. De La Cruz is in the company's apprentice program, helping teach the technical skills state-of-the-art manufacturing requires.
I feel like this is a really stable job.
As the company's new factories, or fabs, that will fill this 1,100-acre campus go up, so does the now hiring sign. More than 3,000 jobs so far.
Each of these individual squares is a chip.
They're pretty little, aren't they?
Teeny tiny, right? So this
process engineer Jeff Potts was one of the first new hires.
What do you think it means for the U.S. to have semiconductors being built in the U.S.?
I think it means everything, because all of our biggest companies right now, they're all driven by semiconductors.
Taiwan-based TSMC first committed to a $12 billion facility in 2020 to make semiconductors that power just about everything we use. But that investment's grown to $165 billion, the largest foreign investment in U.S. history.
You can do multiple customers in each facility.
Yes.
TSMC Arizona's president, Rose Castaneris.
When our customers asked us to be here in the United States, that's why we are here in the United States, as our customers asked us to be here.
Why did they want it here?
So they wanted to here primarily for supply resilience.
For Jennifer De La Cruz, it's financial resilience, enough to buy her family's first home. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Phoenix.
That is the CBS Evening News for this New Year's Eve. I'm Jerika Duncan. We'll see you back here tomorrow. But remember, a new era of CBS Evening News begins on Monday with Tony DeCopel as the new anchor. For now, everyone, Happy New Year.